well, welcome to another episode of Wellness and Growth Journeys, Empowering Women's Health. And today we have Jamie Green, and I'm wearing green today, Jamie Green. And we're going to get in. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you because we are going to talk about, yes, we can talk about some other stuff, but the part that that I'm excited about, Jamie, is the hypnosis, the hypnotherapy, because this is new to me. I remember in our prelim chat, I was giving you my kind of, I guess, experience or like exposure to hypnosis, especially like from movies specifically or TV series, and my thoughts about that. So there might be some myths that you need to debust and break through. But yeah, so go ahead and let's hear a little bit about you. I know that you are a USAF veteran, um, a certified trauma release specialist, and a wellness coach, right? And what is your main focus when it comes to, I guess, trauma release? What do you really like to, I guess, get a hold of and tackle?
Yes, thank you for that. So, my main focus as a trauma release specialist is helping men and women break free of limiting beliefs. So, those negative beliefs like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, helping them let go of those negative beliefs as well as moving past trauma where there have been emotional strongholds, where there has been anger and sadness and grief, still holding on from that past trauma, releasing the guilt and the regret. And so, what I utilize is neurolinguistic programming and timeline therapy that really gets to the root of the past traumatic experience so you can move past that trauma instead of being stuck with those limiting beliefs because of what you experienced in the past.
Awesome. And how did you get into this? Like, I guess, walk us through the journey from being a veteran, into becoming a trauma release specialist and wellness coach. Like, walk us through what that path was like and why, because there's always a good backstory behind um, why people choose their career paths.
Yes. So at a very young age, I had a unwavering passion to help people overcome pretty much their worst days. As through my child rearing days, I had a father who served in Vietnam. And during that time, that was the silent generation, right? So a lot of people came back and they had a lot of mental challenges, but instead of seeking help, they turned to being more passive and doing coping mechanisms that weren't really helping the situation, such as drinking. So I grew up in a household that was very volatile. And seeing the trauma and the pain that my father carried for those years really instilled in me a desire to help people overcome that. And as a child growing up, seeing your father, react and try to cope and heal in his own way and not really understanding that as a child, I internalized a lot of that. I didn't understand why my father was drinking the way he did. And I thought a part of that had something to do with me. So going through my own healing journey to release those own limiting beliefs that I had about myself, it's what drew me to getting certified and offering healing as Reiki, hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming as a life coach.
So you mentioned a bunch of things there. So let's leave hypnotherapy for last, right?
All right.
So okay, so why those specific I guess solutions? Why those specific services? Why those specific uh I guess, yeah, programs? Why those specific ones? Were you drawn to them? Was it like you did like a holistic type of certification, but then these particular things stood out to you, so you wanted to kind of get specialized in these things? Why What appealed to you the most about that?
So I've gone through the process of, let's say, when we have our own challenges, we try to work it out. We try to, work out even harder, hit the gym, go to church, meditate, do yoga. I did all of that, but nothing was really touching the root of the trauma that I experienced and those doubts and the regret and guilt that I was holding on to. And what I learned was that with neuro linguistic programming and hypnotherapy, it works with your subconscious mind. And a lot of people aren't aware that your subconscious mind is what governs your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions. So the fastest way to receive transformation is to work with your subconscious mind because it's the powerhouse that guides 90% of what you do. So if you want to change a habit, if you want to release anxiety, then the quickest way is to work with the subconscious. And so a lot of my clients and for myself receive transformation within one session.
Wow. Oh, that's
Hmm.
great.
It
Um,
is.
so so uh the Reiki, what can you explain
Mhm.
what that is?
So Reiki is a Japanese ancient healing art. It's utilizing energy healing. And what I
Mhm.
love to explain to my clients after receiving Reiki is that Reiki works simply by your intention. And with a lot of the modalities that I utilize, it's intention based. So just by setting an intention when I'm doing Reiki energy healing, that I'm going to send you healing, loving energy, that you begin to feel internally stagnant energy release. You release negative emotions, any pain or stiffness. It's a beautiful phenomenon and something that helps to solidify just how much power we have with our thoughts and our intention.
Interest. I guess I still don't grasp it, but I guess we would have to go through a session for me to um, really, I guess, understand how it works. Um, so, talk a little bit about the neuro linguistic programming. What does that do? What does that mean? I know neuro is brain, linguistic is obviously language. So, in terms of programming, then how does that work?
So it's pretty much again in reference to the subconscious mind, it's utilizing language that our subconscious mind understands. So our conscious mind is when we're communicating daily, we're doing tasks and stuff, we're able to understand analytical tasks. But with our subconscious mind, we have to shift the language a little bit. And that's incorporating the five senses. So our subconscious mind understands language through visuals, through sounds, and through feelings. So, utilizing timeline therapy, which is my main specialty, we utilize a guided visualization process where you visualize how you see something called your timeline, which is how we access and access the past experiences. And then we reframe those, utilizing again your emotions and how you feel. So we're changing how you feel about past situations that had sadness or grief. And then we're changing the visual aspect of it because again, it's with the symbols.
I like that. Well, two things come to mind. Well, the first one is we tend to bury a lot of, I guess, the negative uh, memories. So then, how do you? And then you think, and we're like, we're okay. You know what I mean? But then, um, how then do you, I guess, get to the root of what it could be? Because you know, it may not be the thing that you think it is. How then do you get to the root of, you know, what the issue really is? And then I guess the second thing is, do you see like a commonality in with your clients in terms of the trauma? Because, and the reason why I ask is because, and I'm a millennial, and yes, I do subscribe to
Mm-hmm.
that. And then you have before that, what would it be like the Gen X to
Gen X,
before
yeah.
that. Um, so so Gen X is very like, this is what you're supposed to do in life, and we're gonna do it, and we're
hmm
not gonna complain, that kind of thing. Millennials are coming up, and we're like, okay, yes, we're gonna do this, but then at a certain age, we start to question, wait,
hmm
but wait, oh, this is kind of unfair. Now Gen Z, we know, is like, no, we are not doing that.
hmm
Right? So millennials are like in between, like a catch 22. Like we want to like change the way how we do things. So we're pushing against the grain of the generation before us, who's telling us this is how we're supposed to do it. When inside we're feeling like, no, I don't, I don't want to have kids young. I don't want to have to like get a job immediately after get school, and then I get married and I get a house. I kind of actually want to travel the world and that kind of thing. And
hmm
it's, or I actually want to start my own business, and not work for somebody. So like there's this constant kind of battle, and this might be seen as trivial to some people, but like me having these conversations, I'm being millennial myself, right? These are
hmm
things that I have to constantly kind of push against, right? So this that might just be my thing, but there might be others who are battling with other things as millennials. So that's just an example. But then how do
hmm
you really get to the root of what is causing these limited beliefs and holding people back from like living like their best lives?
hmm
How do you get there?
That's a wonderful question. So, with timeline therapy, so we're going back to that. So, when we access your timeline in a hypnotic state, which is a lot of people have already experienced a hypnotic state, which is simply a focused and relaxed state. So, like before you doze off to sleep, that's considered a hypnotic sleep. Or when you're driving and then you arrive at your destination, you're like, how did I get here? That's a hypnotic state. When you're meditating, yeah, when you're meditating, that's considered a hypnotic state as well. And what you'll come to find that even when you're journaling is also a great example, your subconscious mind comes to the forefront. And that's when the subconscious mind gets to communicate again in a language that your conscious mind can understand as well. So the subconscious comes to the forefront and it identifies where the root belief or the decision began. So when I guide clients through the timeline therapy, they have a little hesitation and they, wonder, well, how am I supposed to know if I'm doing this right? Or how do I know what is the root cause? That's the conscious mind, the analytical aspect of ourselves. And when you go into the relaxed and focused state, the subconscious mind gets to come and answer those questions. It's an amazing phenomenon because the subconscious mind is like a camera. It records everything from birth to where we are now, and it has all of the answers. All you have to do is create the environment where the subconscious mind can come forward and speak its truth.
I was just gonna ask you that
Mhm.
because you do online sessions, or are these in person sessions?
Both.
Both. And
Mhm.
which ones, I guess more successful?
They're both successful. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
awesome. Okay, well, now we get to the hypnosis part.
Mhm.
Um, and you did say in terms like some people might be a little bit hesitant, and that's probably because of what I'm about to talk about in terms of my idea of hypnosis. All right, so you're in the chair, you relax, right? And some dots were waving a little pendulum. That's one.
Mhm.
Um, and then wants you in this kind of state that got you doing all kinds of things, barking like
Mhm.
a dog, all kind of thing. Um, and then when you wake up, you're like a whole different person.
Mhm.
And yes, there is like this kind of, it might we might have to do a session because I am very skeptical about it in the, I guess, bring up the subconscious mind. Now,
Mhm.
when you spoke about the different ways that we actually go through it already, like,
Mhm.
just before you go to sleep, you drive, you kind of know where you're going
Mhm.
already, so like the body kind of takes over, and
Yeah.
you get to where you go, but oh wait, I'm here. That's true. You're right, because your mind kind of wanders
Mhm.
sometimes, and so there is this kind of like, I don't know if that's gonna work.
Mhm.
Uh, so I guess two questions. So then, how do you, I guess, go get past that barrier with some clients who are curious
Mhm.
but skeptical to bring past that? Yeah, and then how do you get your people? I guess a marketing question, like how do you get people to understand, like you communicate what you do and how it helps, and how do you get people? So yeah, let's I guess talk about how you get past that first kind of barrier of like, yeah, is this gonna work? I'm not really sure, because that's what we see on TV, and it kind of seems like this kind of, I don't want to be rude, but like quack kind of like some sort of weird kind of thing happening, and then like, is it even true? Does it even work? I think it would probably be the other extreme of it.
Yeah, those are all wonderful, wonderful questions and actually very common concerns. The media, the movies, they all do a great job of showing like the extreme versions of stage hypnosis. Hypnosis is not someone stirring a teacup and you falling into a deep abyss. It's not.
Oh no, I was trying not to mention that one
How
because
could
I
we
feel
not
like that is
mention it?
that is yeah.
Yeah, it's not that.
But yeah, that
It's
one.
definitely not that. It's not someone being on stage, quacking like a dog or like a bird. It's not that. It's not mind
And when you
control.
snap your fingers, you come back to that. I forgot
Yes.
that one. You snap your fingers and you come back to reality. I'm gonna snap my fingers. One, two, three. Oh, what happened?
No, it is not that. But I do want to let you in on a secret though. Those people that
Ooh.
you see on stage
Mm-hmm.
barking like a dog and quacking like a duck, those are
Uh-huh.
completely things that they would normally do because the subconscious mind is your best
Uh-huh.
friend and is always looking out for your highest good and is not going to allow things that you would not want or feel comfortable with doing, right? Because your subconscious mind is it governs your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions, right? It controls
Mm-hmm.
90% of what you do. And if that's something that you're uncomfortable with, the subconscious mind is just going to completely reject whatever is given to you in a
Okay.
hypnosis session.
I like you. You're not discrediting the therapist.
No,
Because in my mind, I'm like, no, something's wrong. Are you trying to trick me that this works or something when
no,
it doesn't?
not at all.
Okay.
But stage hypnosis is definitely a thing, and a lot of people is based off of their susceptibility to receive suggestions when the hypnosis is giving them.
So you don't make them drink tea. Like what? It's just really kind of
Not
like a
unless they
relax.
want to.
Just kind of like a relaxed kind of
Hmm.
yeah.
Yes.
So let me put my marketing hat on
Hmm.
now. How do you, I guess, get your clients? How
Hmm.
What is the, I guess, the core message
Hmm.
that you try to communicate to your
Hmm.
people?
The core message is to let them know that there is a holistic way to release limiting beliefs and trauma that they've experienced that does not require prescription drugs, that does not require traditional talk therapy, which I know for males can be more challenging. This process of utilizing neurolinguistic programming and timeline therapy, it allows you to work through that past trauma without reassociating yourself into that trauma and without talking about those specific details that may come up and cause you to feel anxious and scared and traumatized all over again. it's very gradual, and the process is actually very relaxing and peaceful.
So, in terms of, I guess I'm curious because this podcast really is for women. In terms of, I guess, the clientele, do men come to to you needing help and wanting help?
It's a mixture of both. And I have helped a few male clients and veterans as well to overcome their PTSD and flashbacks with the timeline therapy.
I can't even imagine what it's like. I've seen a couple of movies. I mean, that's how we get educated, quote unquote, right? We just watch movies and we're like, yeah, I never thought about it that way. Um, uh, and in terms of, I guess, the ladies, are there any common, I guess, issues that women are dealing with that, I mean, that you can kind of share? Because then, any lady listening to this or a male, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going through that as well. And then like if there is, then like what kind of steps that they could take or any advice that you'd like to give, um, about this kind of shared common um, issue that women go through.
Yes, yes. So a lot of the female clients that I see, they come and they struggle a lot with having anxiety and just a sense of overwhelm. And especially with the daily climate that we're seeing now, the political climate is causing a lot of stress with people. And then just again, for African Americans or people of color, they struggle with that generational trauma, having to address or deal with things that still come up that they may not have thought that they had dealt with in the past. So I got a lot of my clients to go to Insight Timer where I provide guided meditations that also help and address anxiety and overwhelm.
Do you have, and I guess this is me probably talking about my own issues, and I don't know if it's a common issue, but do you have female clients who have difficulty, I guess, speaking up when they're uncomfortable in certain situations, whether it be at work, in a career setting, or even at home? Is that an issue that some of your clients face?
That is something that's fairly common. Again, that goes back to a lot of it goes back to the child rearing experiences and how maybe their voice was silent as they were growing up, not being able to advocate for themselves and speaking up. And so that habit was carried along with them into their young adulthood and further along in their livelihood. And that's what they've grown to continue to do. And so they come and they express that they want to be able to advocate for themselves more and speak up for themselves because they know that they deserve it, right? So it's reinforcing and finding that they do have a voice, that they do have self-worth and confidence, and that they're ready to speak up.
It is something that is really common. I remember they said, "What children should be seen and not heard." I don't know if that's a thing that's also in the U.S., but it's like, yeah, children should be seen and not heard. And it's like, you're not allowed to have an opinion
Mm-hmm.
about anything. You just do what you're told,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. And that extends even to like, I guess, teenage. And then you go into adulthood, and now you're in the working world, and you don't know how to get out of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a lot of people stay in jobs that I don't like or situations that I don't like, because we don't have the strength inside of the
Mm-hmm.
inner voice, to kind of speak up and then say, hey, well, I just don't like the situation, so either you change it or leave.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, and then there's this kind of anxiety around saying,
Mm-hmm.
what it is that you want, or what it is that is bothering you. So I do find that that's a big thing for my, I won't say my generation, but who knows? It might have been going on for a long time too,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, I remember one time, because people say when they're like on the internet, right? Because they're
Mm-hmm.
like, you don't know me. I could say what I like. I don't even have to put a picture and that kind of thing. So just say what I
Mm-hmm.
like. And I remember there was this news article about a celeb. I can't remember which celebrity, but he was an older celeb actor, and apparently he was like really grumpy on set. And I remember saying, I was like, yeah, he's definitely at that age where he can say what he wants and not
Right.
really care about people's opinions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so and that had me thinking. It's like, so you get to age in your life, you're like, I don't care. I don't care if you think, I'm gonna say what's on my mind, that kind of thing. But when you're younger, you don't,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's almost like knowing with the older generation that when
Mm-hmm.
just say what they like. They don't care. They've been through life already.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. So I find that quite interesting. Not saying that we should just say what we want, but
Mm-hmm.
like at least just say,
Yes.
just say. And I think somebody commented on my comment and was like, "Oh well, maybe you're old and grumpy." And I think I responded was like, "Maybe." Just because I share my comment, I was like, "Hey, he's at the age where he can say what he wants and
Mm-hmm.
be old and grumpy about it, right?" Didn't have anything to say about to me, and to be honest, I didn't care either.
Mm-hmm.
Like I share my opinion just like anybody else. So why are you coming at me?
Right.
Uh, so that is one of the things though that I find is really, oh my gosh, a big limiting
Mm-hmm.
kind of action. I won't say belief. I guess maybe it's a belief in there that um, maybe that it would be a negative response if you say
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
what's on your mind, or and you don't know how to handle that. Maybe that's the limiting belief there. Um, but there is a whole thing around, am I good enough in
Mm-hmm.
whatever aspect? Um, that and I do think it really does start from young.
Yes.
You trying
Yeah.
to instill that kind of confidence in your young ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it really does affect the way how you parent, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't kind of want your child to turn out like how you
Yeah.
kind of turned out or where you were lacking. But then on the same breath, you don't even know how to even tackle that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't know how to tackle that. um, but in terms of, I guess, wanting to kind of break free from some, or maybe, I don't know if they're easy or the easier ones, but trying to break away from some of these limiting beliefs. What, I guess, advice would you give women who are probably going through any of the things that we mentioned? Um, what are some of these steps, I guess, that they could do from today, that could, start to help or alleviate some of the anxiety around not feeling good enough, or, yeah, I guess good enough, or, worthy, because of, I guess, this past trauma that they may or may not know about. Um, any advice?
Yes, I would highly suggest to begin a journaling practice. If you're familiar with Harry Potter and the time, okay, beautiful. So there was a scene in the movie where Harry Potter was walking through the hallway with a map. And depending, I believe, when the light shines on the map, then that's when the ink was visible, right? And you could see the different paths. So, in the same token, when you journal about a challenge that you're having, it allows your subconscious mind again to come to the forefront to help you work through that challenge and figure out whether or not there are other avenues to explore a more empowered perspective. So, when our conscious mind is trying to figure out why something is, such as why do I feel nervous when doing public speaking, it may come up with a list of common justifications or explanations, right? But when you journal about it, then your subconscious mind could say, well, The reason why I feel nervous when I'm public speaking is because this happened when I was younger, something that you may have even forgotten about completely. And then it'll come up with another avenue. Well, how can I begin to improve with my public speaking? And perhaps you'll think, oh, well, remember there was this organization that I met that I could join and practice. And so journaling gives you the opportunity to explore and see things, see different challenges from different perspectives that you normally wouldn't have noticed.
And so, is there a right and wrong way to journal? Like what? Because well, when we were younger, we had a diary. I don't know about you, but I had a diary. And I got it from, uh, or I had the idea from, again, sitcoms that I would watch, and I would come home and I would get my diary and I'd be like, "Dear diary," because that's how you start, right?
Yeah.
And then you talk about what happened during your day, but then you try not to put too much, and you try to talk in code just in case anybody reads your diary, finds your diary, right? So, is there a right or wrong way to journal? I mean, because I've heard about people talking about journaling. I mean, I've heard about people talking about meditating as well, and I'm like, am I even doing this right? Like, what is the purpose, I guess, and how do you do it? Like, what's the point? What's the process? Was the, I guess, thought around, I guess, the journaling, and then also meditation.
Okay. So when you're journaling, you don't have to talk in code. You can just write it out, you know. This is this is the challenges that I'm facing right now, and this is how I feel. So you write about the challenges, you write about how you feel. Then you begin to go a little deeper. Well, what thoughts and what beliefs do I have about myself when I'm facing this challenge? And as you write those, then you'll start to question, well, are my thoughts and beliefs 100% true? And in the beginning, you may look at it and you may automatically say, yes, this is true. I'm absolutely terrified of doing public speaking. But your subconscious mind will say, actually, this isn't 100% true. Because maybe a couple months ago or a couple years ago, you were able to do public speaking just fine and everything went smoothly. So you continue to go deeper and deeper with each thought and each belief, and then you challenge it. And then an even better idea is to also include positive affirmations. So when you begin to challenge those beliefs and those thoughts, also provide some empowerment statements to yourself. And that could be something that you can utilize as an anchor and a grounder when you're meditating as well.
Okay. So, and do we do this in one sitting? How long do you journal for? Is um the reason we're doing it is to read it back? Um, like what do we do? So you pour out on paper, assuming, and then what do we do with this?
So it's also based off of personal preference. You can write it out on a diary, on a notebook, a physical notebook, or you can use your phone. I believe it has a journal feature on there now, or even your laptop. And you can utilize it on a daily basis, whether you want to do it in the morning, the evening, or at nighttime, and decide what's going to work for you to be consistent. So whenever you have something weighing on your chest, or you feel anxious about something, or you have a challenge, or if you just want to reflect on how your day is, to go to the journal and just write out, you know, positive things that happened that day, things that you're grateful for, and then dig a little deeper. And it's a beautiful thing to have the physical journal because then you can look back. And when you look back, you can see, well, I'm not in the same spot that I was a couple months ago anymore. I've grown.
Okay, okay. And tell me about meditating. Like, I guess, what is the state of meditating? Because I mean, you might say that I meditate if get up and then I sit on my bed for like the next 10 to 15 minutes just trying to like gather my thoughts. But like, what is the
Okay.
What is it saying? What really is it? Is it purposeful? Is it is it like a where your mind wanders? Like what would you describe that as?
So the purpose of meditating is it provides a lot of benefits. So this is too much to go over in the time that we have now. But I highly suggest researching all of the amazing benefits of it. It helps with anxiety, it helps with stress, it helps with clarity, it helps with focus. And what you mentioned is actually a form of meditation when you allow yourself to focus on your breath or on your thoughts instead of your mind racing all over. If you just focus on one thought, you can focus on one positive affirmation. Whatever works for you as your anchor and your home base, that's what you can utilize to meditate on. And it doesn't have to be long. It could be 5, 10, 30, or an hour. It's all about what works for you.
So you focus on one thing, and then there's breath work involved.
Mhm.
So I suppose those are the main things that you work on when you're meditating. Interesting. I again back to my reference, my cultural references, which is like you sit down in yoga position and you you do this and you cross your feet and that's what people make it seem like meditation was. Um, I guess before we wrap up, out of these three things that you specialize in, is there something that you do all three things when your clients come to you, or is it like a case by case basis and you recommend, okay, well, actually, let's go through some hypnotherapy sessions, or actually, let's do the NLP? How do you, I guess, diagnose and prescribe with your different programs?
Yeah, so it definitely depends on the client and what their concern or focus is. So, for example, if they're coming in and they would like to work on public speaking or anxiety, then depending on their comfort level, we may or may not introduce hypnotherapy in the beginning. But as you know, a lot of people have that misconception that hypnosis is mind control. And so if they're if they're not comfortable with that, then I start with Reiki energy healing and then with neurolinguistic programming and timeline therapy.
Okay. But you think the most effective might be the hypnotherapy?
I'm biased. I'm going to go with timeline therapy because I love it. It works instantly. And sometimes with hypnotherapy, there are it's an additional layer that sometimes you have to get past, especially when their conscious mind may not be fully ready to go through a hypnotherapy session because of those concerns that we talked about earlier.
Yes. Yeah. And I could see that as well. I could see that as well. So are you, I guess, how do you, I guess, reach people online? Or how do you get your clients normally? Is it through networking? Do you post on social media? How do you get your clients?
So it's mainly through person-to-person networking as well as through my website. I also offer my meditations on Insight Timer. So it's a generation of clientele through there.
Oh, really? Oh, nice. Nice. Okay, is there any or is there any questions that I didn't ask that you would like me to ask? Anything that you think would be relevant for our listeners? Anything like that?
No, I think we went through a lot of good questions and provided a lot of good detail.
I think I have been pretty, I don't want to say traditional, but not open to certain, I guess, um, remedies or solutions or pathways when it comes to health and wellness, but beginning to get a little bit more open about certain things for sure. Um, because I do believe in the subconscious and that there is power in tapping into that. When I was doing my master's, I actually wanted to do a PhD, and I wanted to talk about subconscious racism. It's a huge topic. Um, And I wasn't, my problem is I was in communication, so I wasn't really sure how I was gonna tackle it, improve and that kind of thing. Um, but the concept was pretty much people think they aren't racist, but really
Mhm.
and truly
Mhm.
in subconscious,
Yep.
they do have some racist thoughts there, or
Mhm.
thoughts that when you dissect them, no, that's not
Mhm.
quite right,
Yeah.
right? Or that
Yeah.
you think that particularly. So from then, I knew that there was power in the subconscious mind. So
Mhm.
just get really open. I think we can definitely do a part two because I definitely want to go through your hypnotherapy and see how that goes. And I want to
Okay.
do it when I am a little bit more, I guess, relaxed because
Mhm.
I do have some deadlines and stuff
Yeah.
to go through. So a little bit more relaxed and clear my mind so we could go through this and yeah, and see how that
Wonderful.
works. So thank
Wonderful.
you so
Thank
much,
you.
Jimmy. What I'll do is I will leave your website in the description on YouTube.
Okay,
So if
wonderful.
anyone is in need of your services, they will be sure to reach out to you. Are you on any social media platforms?
I am on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. Mhm.
Okay, Instagram. So yes, on Instagram you are Sunshine
So
Soul Vibes.
mhm.
And the same thing on Facebook. I'm assuming yes.
Mhm.
All right, cool. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Hopefully, we covered everything, guys. And if
Yeah,
there's
if
anything
not,
we
we
didn't
can discuss
cover,
it in the second one.
yeah, yeah. And if you want us to cover
Mhm.
in session two, which will be like all about going through the process and everything,
Mhm.
let us know any comments on YouTube. I'm not sure if you could do comments on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, but if not, find us on YouTube and leave
Yes.
some comments. I am open to suggestions about topics that we could just tackle on this
Mhm.
podcast. And I definitely want this podcast to be for us women to kind of
Mhm.
explore the different avenues of health and wellness and see what works for us. Really, like I mean, life is too short for us to have a struggle
Yes. Mhm.
through different different things and just tatter on and then the end of life is there and then you didn't get to live a fulfilling life, right? We
Mhm.
don't want that. We're gonna say no to that.
Yes.
We can't control what happens around us. The only thing we try to control is what happens to us and
Mhm.
what we do, what we think, and how we respond. So, with that, thank you for joining me for another episode,
Thank you.
and you have an awesome day.
Maybe you too. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for joining us on another Wellness and Growth Journeys podcast. Now, if you're inspired to elevate your health and wellness business, the Wellness Growth Agency is here to guide you. We specialize in tailored digital marketing strategies to enhance your client engagement, grow your practice, and improve overall satisfaction. Let's unlock the potential of your business together. Visit us at wellnessgrowthagency.com to learn more, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more insightful episodes. Until next time, keep thriving and remember, wellness is a journey. Growth is the destination.